Hello, everybody. This is François Gauthier. As many of you know me, I'm a French journalist and writer living in India, loving India, defending India for now 30 years. It's been an uphill battle because, the image of India is not what it should be, both in Europe and the United States. There are lots of people who have vested interest to downgrade India, Indologist, Marxist, Indian themselves, Hindu themselves in academic position that want to please the West, human rights associations. Yet living in India, I can say that I don't know a country where one could be more free. In 40 years, nobody ever asked my passport on the streets. I was never aggressed. Though, as a journalist, I traveled from Kanyakumari to Kashmir to Ladakh. I covered the Kargil war even. So I feel privileged to live in India. Now, I'm for a few days in Paris, my birth city. It's beautiful weather, as you can see behind me. All the French are out on the terraces, drinking, smoking, eating, talking, like the French love to do. France is a beautiful country and people are beautiful. But at the moment, the situation is difficult because prices have gone up tremendously. Since I last came, all the prices, whether it's taxis or internet or milk or whatever you can think of, has gone up because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, which the French are supporting. Not only that, but when I look at the French television, most of the channels invite so-called experts who demonize Russia, who make Russia the evil country, and of Ukraine the saintly country. It's like a second crusade. The crusade was when the Christian kings of France went to regain Jerusalem, which they thought was the holy city to Christianity. So it's like a second crusade now, which is happening in Europe, that the entire Western world wants to defeat Russia. Now, Russia is a very ancient country. It's got a very ancient soul. Whatever you can say about Mr. Putin, and I am no friend of Mr. Putin, I do think that he's a dictator. The people of Russia have elected him, and the people of Russia seem to be standing mostly with him. And Mr. Putin has genuine concerns about the NATO forces coming very, very close to Russia, encircling Russia from the east, from Ukraine, of course. This is one of the reasons why Mr. Putin went to war against Ukraine. But also now Finland, Sweden, so many countries are becoming part of the NATO forces. And thus nuclear weapons can be posted and will be posted on the borders of Russia. Unfortunately, also, the French president, whom I admire, Mr. Macron, I think he's a genuinely courageous man. The reform that he just did to postpone the age of retirement from 62 to 64 is really very genuine and warranted, because 64 is not old nowadays with modern medicine and the French social security system, which takes care of you from birth till death. That is, from the birth till death, your medicals are mostly covered. You have a retirement plan. When you become very old, you can enter a retirement home. So it's a good system, which is unfortunately is very much taken advantage of, particularly by refugees coming from Muslim countries, and which get in France permits, living permits, as well as social security, and have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 children. The more you have children in France, the more the state pays you, the government pays you, because there are not enough children. The French themselves do not produce enough children. So this demonization of Russia is very disturbing, because I feel that it's a useless war, that Europe is not going to gain anything out of it, except propping up Ukraine, which doesn't have the ancient soul of Russia, and which has played a very dubious role during the Second World War. As some of you know, the Ukrainians allied themselves with the Nazis. Some of the prison guards where Jews were slaughtered were Ukrainians. So very doubtful role of Ukraine, and I am not a fan of Mr. Zelensky. He may be a good actor, but I'm not a fan of him, and I think that Europe is backing up the wrong horse. Now, as far as India's position is concerned, I do think Mr. Modi is right that India's interests should come first, that Ukraine is a very far away country from India, and India has no interest to side up with Europe and the United States against Russia. I don't think that it would make sense for India. Yet there's a lot of pressure on Mr. Modi on the part of United States, of course, Mr. Biden, who's a man who's now coming to 80 years old, doesn't have it. I don't think he has his full brain still. He mistakes people. His speeches are sometimes the speech of a schoolboy who doesn't know anything. So Mr. Biden is dragging the world on the Third World War, which will be nuclear and which will devastate the entire world. And Mr. Modi is right to keep away from it. I hope that he sticks to that position and doesn't bend to Mr. Modi, Mr. Biden and Mr. Macron and the British Prime Minister to their pressure, because, as I said, this is the right attitude. Now, who's going to benefit from all this is China. If there is one enemy of the West who doesn't like the West, who mistrusts the West, who spies on the West, it is China. And yet, China benefits because the Chinese are on one side are a friend of the Russian, but keep a certain distance so that their economic supremacy and political supremacy also remains. And for India, it is a big problem. It's a big problem for India because China is India's #1 enemy, and a very deadly, very ruthless, very cold-minded enemy. And when the Dalai Lama dies, unfortunately, Mr. Modi doesn't give the Dalai Lama the attention and the respect he deserves, because when he goes, it's a fantastic trump card for India, which goes away, and the Chinese will nominate their own Dalai Lama, and India will be further weakened with Tibet being a place where the Chinese can swoop down onto India in case of a war. So, in my view, China is a much more deadly enemy to the West than Russia, and the West is fighting against the wrong enemy. Fighting against Russia is the wrong enemy. It's a wrong war. As usual, if you look at that from the spiritual point of view, from the Hindu point of view, there are forces, Asuric forces, Adamic forces at play, which make of men and presidents even puppets in their own hands. And these forces at the moment are pulling the strings of Europe, which is on a suicide pact, because this war is not going to benefit Europe. When the winter comes, next winter, it's going to be a very tough winter in Europe with less fuel, less heating fuel, prices that are going up. So it's like a suicide pact. I'm not a fan of Mr. Trump. Also, I don't think that he's a very good man, but at the same time, he was much stronger against China. He understands that Russia cannot be demonized like that, that it's a country that you cannot wipe off the face of the earth. This old cliche of Russia being the devil is a very old cliche that needs to be gone with. So China wins. India wins if it retains its strong policy of keeping away from NATO and Mr. Biden. But on the whole, the world loses. The world loses because it's a useless war against the wrong enemy, and eventually it can lead to a world war, which will be a catastrophe. Namaste.